Welcome back to my little mini series about all my favorite teaching materials. And today we are going to be looking at the sort of materials I use with my students to cover what I would call the intermediate stages, which in the British system is about equivalent to about grade 4 to, let's say, about grade 6. So, if you have already perhaps watched my video about the beginner materials, you will first of all recognize this book here. Yeah, so I showed in this video the book 1 of position pieces, and now we are going to look a little bit further at book 2. Now, as I said in the previous video, I absolutely love these position pieces books by Rick Mooney because they are so well constructed. Don't think there is really any other material out there that just teaches all the different positions in a more logical way than these books. So Volume 2 here, it takes us through well, beyond the neck positions, really, these sort of in-between positions, position 5, 6, and 7, in all the many different variations they come in. Yeah, so much like book 1, this is always constructed in such a way that you have got your target practice exercises, which always aim to really have you train your ear and match open strings to notes in the new positions. So to really train accuracy of intonation and learning to find these positions and really sort of navigate around these positions. And of course, as I said in my previous video, I am an absolute stickler for doing these geography quizzes, because learning new positions is absolutely no good unless you learn exactly which note is on which finger, on which string. And doing these religiously gives you such an enormous head start with just really knowing the geography of the instrument. Yeah, and then in each chapter you have got numerous pieces that really drill whichever position you're working on at the time. So this is an absolutely indispensable part of my teaching program. Yeah, so as soon as we get to these intermediate stages, the range of sort of technical exercises and studies we can use really opens up quite drastically. And again, there is one work which I think every cellist will definitely have come across, and that of course is the Feuillard daily exercises. Now, as you can see, it's quite a comprehensive book, so there's absolutely, you're not meant to, well, I don't know, maybe he meant you to do all of them every day, but don't think that's quite realistic. So I prefer to use this book much more sort of to dip in and out of and find exactly for whatever challenge we are trying to conquer with a student at any particular point. There is a fix for just about everything in this book. Yeah, and it's divided into different chapters if you don't know it already. So 5 chapters, the first one for exercises in the neck positions, second one going a little bit higher, again taking in everything up to about sort of 7th position. Third part is really specifically focused on thumb position. Fourth part on double stopping, and the fifth part I like especially, lots and lots and lots of exercises for the bow. Yeah, so every possible bow stroke, and here you see this is my old teacher's writing. So in here, and on one string, on two strings, on three strings, on four strings. So if you master what is in there, you have already got a pretty good technical armory. So this is definitely a book to have and to use. And we'll perhaps look at some specific exercises from that in another video. Great. Now another one which I like to introduce at that point is, and there is a little bit of it is actually covered in the foyer, but to cover it in more detail is this book here, Cosman. Now, Cosman falls into the category of what I call donkey work. Now, donkey work is really the equivalent of, you know, taking your fingers to the gym. Now, here you go. And if you're wondering why this book is completely coming apart at the seams, that's because this book, you can see the signature here, actually is a book which my late father learned to play the cello from, I think, in the 50s. So it's had quite some life, and I love these. So take a look. Yes, it looks really scary, doesn't it? Now, these exercises here, the Cosman exercises, are really there to build strength, to build agility in the fingers, and they are brutally effective. Now, they're a little bit, I would say, like the hand-on exercises for piano, not something which you're supposed to do for hours on end, but definitely something to do a little bit of every day. And if you do that, you will really find the benefit of that quite quickly. So you've got in there, first of all, the Cosman exercises, which sort of have become famous, the ones here based on double stopping, but there are more in here. For instance, there's pattern here, the 1 4 3 4 1 4 2 4 1 3 2 3 finger pattern, and later on there are also scales called progressions. These exercises here, you don't really luckily have to buy anymore nowadays, because you can find lots of these materials now on the website IMSLP, where you find almost every piece of music that is not in copyright anymore. So as usual, I'll be posting all the links below. But so Cosman is something I introduce at that stage, because it really helps to build strength in the fingers and really build a good hand shape. And that for me is very important, to build a good left hand shape. Now, other studies which I absolutely love, I already mentioned it in the beginner's video, and that's the studies by Sebastian Lee. What I like about them, versus, I mean, they're level-wise not too dissimilar to, let's say, Dotzauer, for instance. What I like about Lee is they're slightly less repetitive, and for me, musically, just that little bit more interesting. And he wrote quite a few different sets. So, for instance, there's one here which I remember as a young student quite enjoyed doing. That is Opus 131, 24 melodic and progressive exercises. And again, they have a second cello part, so you can play them, you know, together with your teacher. But they're also, I would say, more sort of little pieces rather than sort of dull exercises, but really technically valuable. So that is one set I like to use. And then there is another one, it's called 40 Melodic Studies, that is Opus 31. So and they are actually I would say technically sort of going sort of to the upper end of the intermediate spectrum. They don't go, you know, into thumb position or anything yet. However, the stuff demands, especially on really mastery of positions and on bow technique in particular, are really quite advanced. So that's, again, a set I really do recommend, and they're actually really enjoyable to play. Now, at this stage, I start to give my students absolutely constantly what I would describe as sort of these little salon pieces. Very sort of, you know, mostly really beautiful melodies on which where we really work on sound production, on bow speed, on vibrato, and we really sort of learn expression and the whole art of how to craft a phrase, and which really is sort of the backbone of, again, of playing the cello, and playing the cello well, ultimately. So as I showed you in my beginners video, where I sort of showed you my little Russian cello Bible here, there is also this one here. Now, as I mentioned in the previous video, very easy to get hold of from Ruslania, an online book retailer in Helsinki. This wonderful book here, with, it's got 70 pages, has got, I don't know how many different pieces in there, and it costs 12 euros. Obviously plus postage, but that's not particularly expensive. And it comes with a piano part as well. So it's fantastic value for money. So I really like this book, and it's got such a variety of absolutely sort of beautiful little concert pieces in there. So my students are really constantly playing something out of this book, because it's such wonderful material, not only really to train all the things I spoke about earlier, but especially to have really nice performance material. I'm generally not a great fan of sort of a lot of the arrangements you can buy. I mean, in England, for instance, you can buy countless books of you know, sort of famous tunes that have been arranged for the cello, and a lot of the arrangements are just not particularly just well written for the cello, I find. So this one here is really good in terms of just having pieces which are really, I mean, some of them are also arrangements, but done so well for the instrument and really beneficial to your overall learning process. So as usual, link will be below. So that's just a sort of selection of the main materials really which I use, and of course, as usual, if you have any comments or questions, pop them into the comment section below, and I'll try my very best to get back to you as soon as I can. See you soon.